It was such good teamwork that we all know that these Revival players are high caliber. We just have yet to really see them work together in that way. So I'm very heartened for what we might see on Kings Row.
They're individually very talented, but as a team it has been so. Now that they're here on Paris, they were able to find that magic. Here on Kings Row, things can go totally different for Wave Check. It most surely did. Let's see if it's going to be the same for Revival this time around, as Epps and Paintbrush already taken in some damage. Montreal Rebellion going to go ahead and use that Wrecking Ball, so they're not going to have a ton of point presence, but they are going to have much better long-distance damage with Facility in the sky. Mistakes on that Widowmaker. Facility already funneling them into exactly where he wants them to be. So you can trap them all in that room, and it's going to be very easy to barrage them a little while later, but Apply getting that pick is a big deal for Revival chances on this defense. The res has been used.
Res forced out from Tenza right now. Revival taking a ton of damage, but they have point presence. They have more than that. They have a tick and a half, and Montreal have really yet to make up for that difference. They're putting in a lot of damage, but until the kills come through, you can have all the ults in the world, and it's not gonna matter.
Jikaru, though, gonna get hacked. He's still alive somehow. Mistakes also slept with Facility during all of this. Finds the pick on to Tavik. Montreal Rebellion now gonna actually fall victim of once more. Mistakes have a little bit of a hard time staying alive. EMP gonna come through, only find Jikaru. We're not going to be seeing tons of 6-man EMPs with what Montreal is running, as most of them are going to be separated, but he did do his job. He found someone and he was able to take them down. Now it's on to the next EMP.
Revival right now still hanging on. They just need to continue to rebuff the attack. It's going to be pretty difficult with Facilities constantly threatening barrage. You don't know which way to turn. Do you block the fire in the air? Do you block Mistakes camping on this high ground?
This is too much of an advantage for Montreal Rebellion, and the scary thing here is they are going to have 5 ultimates coming into Streets phase. Revival will only have 1, maybe 2 on the line by the time they need once more. Montreal Rebellion should have a distinct advantage in a lot of these fights for the time being, for the foreseeable future, as Facility just going to do it the old-fashioned way and take down Tavik onto that brig. Montreal Rebellion sitting pretty.
Look at Jikaru nudging the cart there. Montreal Rebellion, this is the thing when you're going to be running a Widowmaker and a Pharah. You don't have to worry about the Goat's Death Ball suddenly levitating into the air and finding you. So Revival need to make some switches, and they're going to throw Tavik onto the Roadhog here. And this is actually a really good adaptation. You don't want to take Manitin off of the Zarya just yet. He has the grab. You can win the ground battle, but you have to get through the bevy of ultimates that Montreal have currently stocked up. And first and foremost is going to be that EMP.
Bevy, cornucopia, plethora of ultimates, whatever the way you say it. They've got a ton of them. It's Montreal Rebellion going to go ahead and use that Valkyrie. Graviton Surge, though, used by Manitin. Jikaru is so low. Boger going to find that kill, that charge kill. EMP, though, going the other way. Revival going to have 4 members of their team hacked. Rockrush only getting the hog. But the rest will fall in due time. Montreal Rebellion will continue on this payload. These King Rows have been so fast.
It's, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Sarah Palin hunting wolves from a helicopter. It's that's
I
what
don't remember that.
No, it's totally apparently a thing, but it just feels like Montreal Rebellion have every advantage positionally, damage-wise, and Revival are just trying to plug the holes in the dam as they pop up, but this wall of concrete is turning into a sieve. They do maybe have a respite in the form of Apply's EMP. But again, how many of Montreal are you going to catch? There's only one theoretically ground-based hero, and that is Jikaru on the cart.
Translocate in, EMP right after, Jikaru back in spawn, but there's a trade going the other way. It's a 5v5 now between these two teams. Epps did use the Nano. Facility is doing a pretty good job on the Pharah. Usually the Pharahs get worse and worse as we go on a King's Row, but when your Facility is going to be pretty consistent throughout, as he's going to get hacked. He's going to fall on the ground, but his team has got his back as they've pushed Revival back to spawn.
A really excellent anti-nade from Goliath as well, killing Tavik there, keeping him from that self-heal. So Montreal working this very well, and they're actually going to throw Jikaru onto the Orisa now for this 3rd point push. Give a little bit of shielding to Goliath.
Mistakes. Trying to get some ultimate by taking down that D.Va's health, or maybe even trying to take that defense matrix away, so there's an opening for Revival to push in some damage, or for Montreal to push in some damage, but 4-man EMP going Revival's way. Snex finds the kill, but it's a 5v5, but with the res, Montreal Rebellion have a continued advantage in this fight. Revival have not been able to leave their spawn pretty much throughout this latter portion of King's Row. A nice biotic grenade going under Revival. He's got Montreal Rebellion will continue their advantage, but Tavik is going to get that Nano with the whole hog. That's a ton of damage going their way, but no, not for much longer. Tavik going to get slept. That is a big body there. You can't get that aggressive when those cooldowns are online, Mr. Tavik. Montreal Rebellion going to lose a member, though. Goliath used the Nano just in time. It was on Facility, who's trying to push down that Reinhardt shield. The Revival unable to take this Pharah out of the sky. Tavik is already so low. Montreal Rebellion could be walking in on this last part of King's Row. There's only 2.5 meters remaining. The cleanup crew is already here for Montreal Rebellion. And with about 2.5 minutes exactly, Montreal do finish out the map. Just to put that in perspective, the last game that we saw, XL2 had 4 minutes and 16 seconds on the clock, and it felt like Montreal walked through that, right?
It was certainly very one-sided in terms of control. Montreal Rebellion never seemed like they were panicking, that they had to react to what Revival were throwing their way, even when Paintbrush drops Sound Barrier and Tavik starts whole hogging. Nothing happens. Montreal simply release the pressure valve, they back off, they wait for those overshields and for the whole hog to die down, then they double back in with the same amount of aggression. And this is the thing with GOATs or heavy tank compositions, right? If you're not landing your abilities, if you're not pushing your opponents, it'll take them some time, sure, to cut through a stake with, you know, a plastic fork, but it'll still happen, right? Facility was never forced off of the Pharah. He stayed on the Pharah all through the third point of King's Row, which is not something that we see teams run very often because she is so vulnerable. But Revival never were able to threaten her enough that Montreal felt it was worth it to change off of their favorite team comp.
Bazili doesn't strike me as a person who's going to put himself in situations where he's going to be vulnerable anyway. He probably dies the least out of everyone on his team, and he's been so hyper consistent throughout their time here since he's landed on the Montreal Rebellion. It's been when they've been able to take mistakes out of the game that Montreal has struggled in the past, but as of right now, mistakes and Bazili functioning on all cylinders. Great opening shot from mistakes. Revival now going to be switching some things up. They're going to go ahead and use that Orisa with the 2 snipers.
Really interesting. Going for a little bit of the wave check look, putting Boger on the Orisa, trying to push forward with that static shielding. But again, it's about that setup. Tavik taking a ton of damage on the approach. The Montreal Rebellion already into double digits for their ultimates. And Smex on this Mei is going to be very frustrating for Epps.
Manton's going to try to assert himself a little bit, use all of his defense matrix, so they're not going to have that ability for the time being. Tensa having to use that res on mistakes. Again, when they're able to focus mistakes out of this game, Montreal has struggled. Let's see if that will ring true. Supply is able to take him down twice in 2 shots, pretty much. Montreal Rebellion now, though, coming right back without Paintbrush. Revival will struggle to maintain any sort of presence on the objective.
Honestly, I don't even know if Mistakes is the linchpin of the Montreal Rebellion comp right now, as Epps forced to take a breather right here. Goliath has just been landing these hooks much more consistently than Epps. Even when Apply is fighting those headshots, it seems like Revival can't quite make as much progress on the ground, which is where they need to focus because objective-based game.
Oh, goodness gracious, for a Boger. The whole hog's going to chew through that shield that was just laid down for his team. And without that shield, they're going to have to use the statue as their own makeshift shield. And that's going to cause Montreal to be able to control the tempo of this fight. But with the return pick from Tavik, the stake is going to fall once more. He's spent more time dead than alive so far at this beginning part of this match. Facility, though, going to bring things right back for Montreal Rebellion with a great Dragon Strike. Revival are unable to break through once again. Montreal Rebellion still looking pretty strong.
I wonder if Mandatin's Diva is doing a ton right now. He can surely go up, frustrate mistakes, keep Facility in check, but he's also very, very vulnerable to Goliath's Roadhog hook, and Montreal Rebellion able to use that to take Mandatin out of the fight very early on, not really afraid of what Apply and Vic can do, and instead focusing down the tanks instead.
There's a little cheeky Goliath trying to use Boger's halt to get his own hook, but finally, Revival's going to come through with 3 Dragon Strike kills. The Blizzard's not going to do much other than use the cooldown. These characters are probably shifting after this point gets capped by Revival, but with a nice Hanzo to Vic, brings his team onto the objective. There's about 1 minute and 23 seconds left, so they're going to have a good amount of time in the bank for Streets, but let's see if they're going to be able to match the pace that Montreal set here on the second portion of King's Row.
Oh, that was like a London Spitfire gesture play right there. Halt into Dragon Strike. And Montreal Rebellion not doing too badly for themselves. They're not going to be too panicked, but they do need to stay on their toes. This choke, a great place for the defense to hold, especially now that you don't have to worry. You have to worry about one less
2.0
sniper. 2.0. Rip.
Yep, exactly. Made contact with the Pharah, but she was able to maneuver just the right way for the hook to release Revival, though. Looking at their ultimates, they're gonna be sitting pretty for the next to engage. Montreal winning this fight is a nice cherry on top for them, as Revival have way more at their disposal to come in onto any engage against Montreal and most likely come out on top. But with Boger going down so early on, they're gonna have to wait a little while longer, and the difference between this 15 seconds being here and not by the end of the round could be huge for them, as Revival gonna go ahead and use some of their ultimates. Boger using that supercharger, they really want to break through this choke. As of right now, Vasily is trying his darndest to take that bongo and make sure that it tacits. Montreal Rebellion, though, going to fall victim a little bit more here, as they're going to fall to Revival. Thanks to some nice play coming in. This is team play coming in from Revival. This is not something that we're used to from them. Things seem to be functioning on all cylinders right now. They just needed to go through the motions.
Practice makes perfect. Whole Hog used to open things up in the archway, which is actually really good news. I thought they might have to use Manatin's bomb to clear the air, since Montreal are still sticking with the pharmacy composition. But they use the Whole Hog, win the ground battle, and now they have the bomb as a tool to find point B.
Dragon Strike gonna try to split Montreal Rebellion apart, and it's gonna funnel them closer to the payload. Revival's gonna have that Valkyrie as well. Paintbrush gonna go ahead and use it. Tavik is very low, and he is gonna get walked on that leash. Paintbrush gonna get that healing in, and it's gonna cause a little bit of space to be given by Montreal Rebellion. Self-destruct into the back line. Tavik already with the kill.
Beautiful.
2 more kills for Manatin. Nice self-destruct from him. The timing on that was beautiful. Tavik now on a 10-player kill streak. This is a new Revival, my friends. They are playing super well here on King's Row. Even though the defensive side was a little bit of a struggle, on their return, they're pretty much matching what Montreal Rebellion gave at them. Montreal was about 30 seconds faster by this point, but Revival keeping it close.
Yeah, Manatin always one of the best at placing those bombs, helped along by the halt from Boger there. Again, another team effort, and I love to see Boger coming alive here on this Urisa.
Jkaru gonna use that supercharger because it's the only thing that they have, but a nice pick from Facility, gonna keep this alive for Montreal Rebellion. This isn't over yet for them. There aren't a ton of ultimates for Revival. Boger gonna fall before he gets to his, and this is gonna be a stabilization from Montreal. The kill from Tavik doesn't really mean much. Revival already losing too many members. Yep. Nice headshot.
Very nice. Facility getting a chance to showcase his talents right there. But Revival not going to be too concerned. There is no way that they can beat Montreal's time bank. That's fine, though. As long as they complete King's Row. Slow, steady, and calculated is going to be the name of the game for this team. Do not forget those lessons in teamwork that you've been exhibiting so far. They are going to have Supercharger at the ready, and hopefully they can leverage this against Montreal Rebellion, who are largely spent.
Facility was able to get to that Dragon Strike. At least they will have that ultimate for this fight. Boger going to go ahead and use that Supercharge, see if they can find an early pick onto Montreal. It's in a pretty safe space, but Mistake finds that pick instead. The res has to be used for Revival. Tensa's in a precarious position, and he's going to use that Immortality Field to try to get out. And he does. Montreal Rebellion still alive here. Mistake now coming online. Has had a pretty slow early half of King's Row, but now in the second half of it, he's the one that's coming up with those picks. Jkaru low once more. Dragon Strike going to push Revival off the payload. Montreal seem to have stabilized, at least for the time being. 1:15 left for Revival.
That was really dangerous positioning for Tensa right there. If Hook hadn't been off cooldown, it could have been a different fight if Revival had been able to take Montreal's only source of healing out of the game. This is pretty risky for Montreal. They do have the advantage of those defensive spawns, but you got to watch that positioning. Tavik has been on a little bit of a cold streak so far, but he can pop off in the blink of an eye. So positioning is going to be key. You got a big fatty Orisa shield. Just hide behind it, use it.
Use it indeed. Montreal will be using their ultimate advantage against Revival, but ultimate advantage has not really been that big of a deal between these two teams so far today, as at other points in this game, the team with less ultimates has been able to overcome that deficiency. Revival, Whole Hog, potentially Self-Destruct, potentially Valkyrie. They will have Dragon Strike, potentially needs to become a reality. If this lands, it does not. So Revival do well the first test. No, they don't, as the mech does go through, so then they can have to try to get back into that mech, and with Tavik gone, without using that Dragon Strike, this is gonna be Montreal Rebellion holding Revival at the very end of King's Row, moving up 2-1. Revival, though, should be really proud of themselves. They're playing much better just in general throughout this series, particularly on Paris and here on King's Row. Things seem to be working out, but feels like it might be a little too late for them, because remember, they are at 1-4 in the standings right now. They have to win this game. They want to be mathematically eligible for the playoffs after next week, but right now it's looking kind of grim.
Or if nothing else, avoid relegation. That would be a really painful thing for the former Mayhem Academy squad. Montreal Rebellion playing very well here, but Revival, I'm very impressed with their ability to communicate. It seems like a small thing, but working to find those halt combos is a pretty difficult thing to execute. We saw halt into Dragon Strike, we saw halt into Self-Destruct. All of that means that the Revival squad, they're communicating, they're setting up these plays, and it's just going to be a matter of time and experience together for that to become a little bit more consistent, which is what's lacking right now.
So Montreal Rebellion up 2-1 against Revival after King's Row, and Revival are coming online, but again, a little too late here on King's Row. They just needed to put it together a little quicker on that last push, but Montreal Rebellion found themselves with a insurmountable ultimate advantage there at the end, and with Tavik dying before using Dragon Strike, that was all she wrote for them on King's Row. But again, moments for Revival. We haven't seen these moments in weeks, so I'm so happy that the players have obviously been working on coming in here, playing a little bit cleaner, getting those scrims in, getting those drills in, because they're definitely showing right now.
Yep. Mistakes, though, from Montreal definitely popping off towards that third point. So just making Revival a little bit more difficult when you have a Widowmaker that has the hot hand there. Really like, his Widowmaker so far this season of Contenders. The last time we saw him playing Widow was when he was on Boston Uprising. It was a little lukewarm back then, but you can tell that the experience, the time has really honed his blade, or his sniper scope in this case.
Well, I think Montreal has been very streaky. You talked about it a little earlier today during this series, is sometimes Montreal is so good, right? They get the picks. Jkaru is killing it. Good old Lewis Power. Real name, by the way. Amazing. And other times, it just seems like Montreal is just shooting at stuff for a minute without anything happening. They somehow don't die themselves that often, but when you're not producing anything either, you might as well have. And so Montreal, we're seeing both sides of them, and if they want to compete, and they do make it, because they're locked in for playoffs already, if they want to compete against the Envies, and honestly, the second half XL2 we saw against WaveCheck, they're going to have to be able to land those shots way more consistently. Mistakes was able to do that at the end here, but at the beginning, he got picked off 4 or 5 times.
Revival was really focusing him down, giving him a really hard time of it. Montreal's, their tempo reminds me very much of NYXL at times, where they simply sit back. If they're not dying, that's totally cool. We're just going to give our DPS a little bit more time. They'll find a pick. I believe they'll find a pick. And sometimes that low tempo play works out very well, because you're not going to be making a lot of unforced errors, because you're not making a ton of moves, right? But other times, depending on the teams that you're coming up against, you have to be able to match their tempo. Teams like Atlanta, Academy come to mind, Grunto, both very explosive teams. So if Montreal Rebellion are looking forward to not just the playoffs, but showdowns, the gauntlets, their future, they need to be able to show that look as well.
So there was a basketball team back in 2000, I think 8/2007 called the Butler Bulldogs. They were a very, very small college, and they made the national championship / Final Four 2 years in a row in a private school with max like a couple thousand people in it. And the thing that they were able to do was they were able to slow down everyone that they played with. Even, I think they lost to Duke in one of the finals, but they were able to take even these top tier teams and have them only score 50 points in a win, as opposed to the 70, 80 they were scoring in other games. So it's possible for Montreal to slow that tempo down, just like NYXL and the Butler Bulldogs, and play such a slow game, because what it does is it really frustrates your opponent that are used to playing a little bit quicker, and they can get a little bit ahead of themselves, and then they start making mistakes. Your defense, though, needs to be absolutely suffocating, and I think that's what Montreal need to work with a little bit more. They need to be a little bit more reactive and proactive on the defensive side, be more in control, because the offense works pretty well. We saw it on Kings Row, but now on the defensive side, that's where I see a lot of their issues, and we're seeing it right now with Jkaru falling very early on from Revival. 3 minutes and 25 seconds left. A more recent example would be in college basketball, there's just like a certain type of style where you don't take a lot of shots, you only take the shots that you make. It's hyper defensive. You're only going to be scoring 50 to 60 points a game. UVA's done it in the past. Butler Bulldog have done it in the past. Golden State ran a very similar thing about 5-10 years ago. I don't remember, but it's effective, and I want Montreal to kind of lean into that a little bit more. I think that'd be a very interesting style of play here in Contenders, because not a lot of Contenders teams play like that.
Exactly, and the reasoning is because it's so incredibly finicky, and you really are living on the knife's edge when you don't give yourself a ton of margin to work with.
Yep.
And as we see, it can fall in the blink of an eye. Jkaru goes down first. That's it for Montreal's first point defense. And that's going to mean a potential walk straight through Street's face for Revival here. That's a Widowmaker's dream. You just one-shot kill the enemy, and there we go. Fist kill your counterpart.
Whenever I see a Widowmaker do that, grapple up, try to 1v1 the Widow, you almost always expect that that's going to be a headshot. They're not even going to have to do the good old left click. The Widow's Kiss wasn't enough there. You got to have to do it with your fist as well. Revival now have the wall hacks. It's going to be really handy for what Montreal is running, because they're going to see where the bunker is, and if the snipers are in separate areas trying to find a different line of sight. Right now, the Halt's going to go through. Nice Halt. Epps is on the high ground all of a sudden. He's going to have to take a breather and drop down. Apply using these wall hacks means that everyone has the same information. Nancy's going to go ahead and throw that bomb, but 2 picks early on for Montreal Rebellion tell me that this defense is going strong. Even though Apply does get a return pick, it's not going to last much longer. The good vibes, that is, as Montreal Rebellion do get this defense going. It was a little while. They already lost the first point. There's over 4 minutes left, but at least they stabilized.
Yeah, Montreal needed that moment to just take a breath, breathe there, set up their defense. And Maniton, alas, going for yet another one of his Maniton bombs. But you have to remember, Widowmaker exists in the game now, and she can one-shot kill you once your squishy Baby Diva larva body pops out of your big metal cocoon. Boger taking a nap as well. There's going to be some time before Revival can continue their push, and when they do, they're going to be looking to see if they can set up yet another halt into Dragon Strike combo.
Arissa playing a little bit on the trampoline at Park. The hook from Epps is going to miss, and this is an upgraded Dragon Strike. That's going to do a ton of damage. That it does, as Boger going to fall right away. Maniton's going to lose his mech as well, so Montreal do look like they've officially stabilized Apply. This seems to be the story for Apply, though. His team is dying, but he gets a pick that doesn't end up mattering in the end.
Classic ranked Widowmaker. Widow, can you switch when I get all these kills? Unfortunately, if the rest of your team's not around, it's basically you're shooting air. Revival right now having a hard time just removing facility from this high ground. Every single time they try and push forward, the tanks take so much damage that they have to wait and heal up before they can make that next move. This corner is proving very difficult for Revival to work around, but they still have Dragon Strike online, and if there ever was an ultimate that bought you some space, it's going to be the 2 dragons.
Apply wins the 1v1, my friends. That's a good one against Mistakes. That's a little bit of bragging rights if you're Apply. Another pick comes through. Montreal only has 3 members remaining. This should be a nice walk into the second point, but Montreal was able to take about 2 minutes off the clock. This could have been way worse. The momentum for Revival at the beginning of this map continued. with a nice kill onto Tavik, though. Is that enough for Revival to have to rethink things? I think Montreal has given a little bit of a reprieve thanks to the fact that the payload has to move through this door. They get a little bit of time to get everyone back. Montreal should be going on this defense once more, but we're definitely seeing that deficiency on the defensive side here with Montreal.
Yeah, just standing steady and not finding many kills yourself, not going to be the game plan for Montreal Rebellion as they swap onto the GOATs look here. Revival, though, maintaining with this current composition. They want to use those ultimates, and Ev's trying to blow everybody to high heaven.
And he's going to do just that, but no kills, so the displacement's going to be enough to leave a window to get another pick. A nice hook there as well from Epps is going to mean that Revival going to continue on here. They're going to get past the toughest part of Dorado pretty easily. Montreal Rebellion are going to leave everything at the end game here of Dorado. Are they going to be able to make it out of spawn and make something happen?
I think it's more likely the Dragons are going to be feasting tonight, and there we go. The zoning Dragons trying to hold everybody back in spawn. Manhattan launching the self-destruct as well, going to clear some space, but not much more.
Apply slept though, so Revival only getting damage from 5 people. Facility is going to end up getting that pick, so there's 6 people for Montreal, 5 for Revival. I like those numbers if you're a Montreal fan. We got the uppercut, we got the seismic slam. We're going to get the rocket punch here very soon. Will the rocket punch do anything is the question. Facility is on this Doofus. We haven't seen him on this character very often. It's very anti what he's been running so far with the Hanzo and all of that long distance damage onto that bear, but as of right now, the Doofus is causing a little bit of a hardship for Revival. Dragon Strike comes through, but the tanks are getting so low. Jikaru, the 99% is going to live somehow. Wow. Facility also going to get a pick. Graviton Surge is now out at the spot, and Montreal Rebellion are going to be able to stabilize. The pick will be the next one to fall. Huge plays coming in from Montreal. That's playmakers right there. Revival going to have to try one more time. They've got a couple ultimates, but how impactful will they be? Not very, because they're going to go ahead and change things up.
Shopping at Costco, wholesale swaps for Revival right there, and Montreal playing their classic style. Switch to GOATs and bunker down, just turtle and force Revival to try and peek for those kills, and that's when Montreal turn around and punish them. I mean, they are playing that corner for so long that Montreal got grabbed. That's just, Revival should have been able to find a pick with their Hanzo, their Widowmaker, found a hook kill. It's easier said than done against all of those tanks of GOATs, but now with their current swap, they're going to be playing for Apply's EMP.
Montreal Rebellion have a self-destruct that can be very useful, but they don't have anything to really combo with. There is no grab on their side. Smeg's going to go ahead and use that self-destruct. It's going to take the shield away from Boger, who's trying his best to get to that Earthshatter. Beautiful biotic grenade coming in from Montreal. It's going to keep Manhattan off at the field. Another kill now for Smegs means that Montreal still maintain that one-man advantage. Apply needs to make something happen. This keeps happening to Apply, the only one from Revival that shows up in the kill feed, but there's a sea of green on the other side. Montreal stabilized once more. 30 seconds remaining means Revival will get another shot at this, as we do see more changes coming from them.
They're going to give up the shot at the grab. This is a big risky play. This means that they're really only damage that they're going to find here is Apply and Tavik. Manhattan now on the diva, largely going to be playing defense. Montreal ready with their Pharah and their Doofus. So many one-shot kill heroes here. If they can find a good pick on the backline, that's going to be it for Revival's push.
Smex plays Doomfist, everybody. He's very close to getting an ultimate at 57% already. Facility getting an initial pick. Everyone on Revival so low in what was a lightning fast pace for Revival in the beginning part of Dorado. They get stopped at the very end. If Montreal are able to finish this map, they will take the series 3-1, but Revival definitely put up a defense like they did on Paris and keep Montreal Rebellion from capturing this map and force a Game 5, keeping their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, that's the win condition for Revival. It's just very telling when you can see Revival starting to feel that pressure. Facility had one mission: kill the Zarya. Kill, kill, kill. Take away all of Revival's sources of healing, and nobody was even looking at him. Right? Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the more concerning thing, because sure, you know, sometimes when you're playing GOATs or when you're not going to be investing in a pharmacy yourself, you just focus on the ground game. But I think it's a very poor decision for anybody to ignore Facility. And nearly all of his shots land, and it only takes a few to take down even a bubbled Zarya. And so Revival were really tying their own hands behind their back by not dealing with Montreal's biggest threat. They've tried ignoring him in the past. Hasn't worked out. And so on their defense, that should be priority number one.
Well, something that Montreal did there at the very end was very smart. They switched over. They got a Zarya there. They got that grab because what Revival was running was going to be weaker against that. And then Revival switches, and what does Montreal do? They switch right back to counter that. That chess that we see with this hero chess that we're seeing between these two teams, or at least Montreal's side, was pretty next level against Revival, because Revival, it's not like they could go back a spot. They didn't have enough time, so they forced 2 team swaps from Revival, which definitely helped them in at the end. Remember, Montreal Rebellion still competing for the 2nd seed as well. They're going to hope that XL2 loses next week, and Montreal needs to win this game and the game next week, but they're still in it for the 2 seed and that bye in at the playoffs. And everyone is trying to go to the gauntlet as well. That is still online for a lot of these teams. The only 2 that have pretty much, I think, we can assume will be there, Atlanta and Envy. So there's still 2 more spots for NA to send. Revival and Montreal Rebellion are going to struggle to potentially reach there. Montreal definitely has a chance, though.
Facility taking to the skies. No surprises here at all to Vic trying to hang toe-to-toe with the Bird of Prey. Apply also has a role to play here. He can certainly zone off a lot of this first point with his Widowmaker, but he's going to have to focus on other things as Facility has largely claimed this space.
With a little help from his friends, Montreal Rebellion get that initial pick. Manitin will fall next. This is a little bit more normal for Revival in terms of what they were running week 1. Even though Tavik wasn't there, Manitin was playing a little bit more Sombra. He's going to be back on the Diva. He flexes on Junkrat occasionally, and apparently Tracer as well, but nothing really seems to be clicking immediately. Manitin has been an amazing player for this team before. We've seen a couple good bombs, but this time around it's Apply getting that initial pick. The res is not going to go through, and Tavik going to find another pick onto that Orisa. So Montreal Rebellion having a little bit of a harder time on the attacking side. They have 2 minutes and 33 seconds to come back, find some picks, and find the point.
I get by with a little help from my friends. You sleep him, I'll shoot him. Apply definitely a little bit more of a 1v1 Widowmaker. It's really nice to, now that Widowmaker's coming back into the fold, to see all these different types of styles. You have the Widows that love to duel Pharahs, you have the Widows that exist only to kill other snipers, and Apply a little bit in the latter category. Ooh, Facility though, there's no running that time around.
Not at all. Is Apply going to find another head? Revival also finding themselves at an ultimate advantage as well. Boker has the supercharger, which makes everyone that much scarier. When there isn't one on the other side, Montreal will just be at an inherent damage disadvantage. They have to deal with the supercharger if it comes out, or just wait it out. We've been seeing that happen a little bit more frequently as we go on through the season. Mistakes unable to replicate what Apply is able to do against them. Beautiful biotic grenade coming in from Epps is going to keep Montreal Rebellion at bay as well. So it looks like they're just going to wait it out.
Once again, Montreal Rebellion playing slow and patiently, waiting for that hook, waiting for that pick. But so far, very slow coming. Tensa actually might just pop this Valkyrie, urge his team forward. Actually, it's going to be the Nano from Goliath. Not going to be doing much for Smex, though, who is slept. No ho hog for you.
I think Tavik maybe should have waited a little while longer before returning his attention to the sky. He still gets the same result, but this might have been able to happen a little bit earlier. Montreal Rebellion now already at 1 minute here on the first point. Revival holding strong. Their defense on Paris and here on Dorado has been super clean and very well done so far.
Yeah, Revival really coming into their own. Interesting here on Dorado. Tavik, though, has used that barrage. No more Battle Bongo, and Manitin is not in mech. So if there was ever a time for Montreal Rebellion to finally shift the gear out of neutral, it is now.
Well, they don't really have a choice. Mistakes getting that pick is a really great opportunity for Montreal Rebellion. Here, team up for special attack. Lewis Power providing some power to the rest of Montreal, but Mistakes is gonna get got by Apply, who has had his number throughout the majority of the latter half so far. Unfortunately for Revival, those are the only kills they seem to be getting here. Montreal Rebellion now coming back in the nick of time, only 15 seconds left, and they're primed to be taking this point. Managing trying to bring things back, however, he is going to get teamed. Boger going to go ahead and use that Battle Bongo. Dies because of a little bit more aggression coming from Revival, but Montreal seem to have taken back the payload and taken the point. 2.5 minutes for them.
Yep, there we go. here now in second. Maybe we'll see the shift into third as we head into Streets phase. Montreal's very selective with their explosivity, but they got some good tools. Once again, Barrage available for Facility. He basically has it every fight, and even if he doesn't, it doesn't seem to matter when his vanilla rockets are so accurate. Montreal also have a way to buy a lot of clear space with Smex's Diva bomb, which, he hasn't been playing a ton of Diva so far, but Montreal like the option, especially when they're coming up against, or were coming up against a Pharah of Revival's own.
Facility have a rocket barrage of his own. I actually haven't seen him produce anything from these barrages in a bit. This is where rocket barrages do get produced, though. Self-destruct finds the Hanzo, so it's a 65 early on for Montreal. You can use this bridge as a Pharah to provide cover and opportunities to get that damage in. Paintbrush survives and gets the res through. The Hanzo is back. F's going to go ahead and use that nano as well. And to Vic finding the bird in the sky. Revival now once again on the defense will stabilize with more kills. Montreal now down to 1 minute and 18 seconds. They're going to have to make something happen here on their next attack.
Really interesting that while Facility was getting in position, you saw right there, he was trying to take down Paintbrush before he got the res. Actually, nobody was on the cart, and Montreal were running 3 tanks. Where did they go? I think they might have been going for the rotation around that high ground, but unfortunately, in the duration of that transition, Revival were able to find those crucial picks to cut Montreal down to their very last push. We got to see some fireworks from Facility and mistakes. Facility now on this Hanzo, because there are very few ultimates to be found on the attacking side. Tenza could pop that Valkyrie, Supercharger could come out, but that's also going to enable the DPS.
That was gorgeous coming in from mistakes. To Vic also low, but with the res and an F's return kill, still not over for Revival. Montreal Rebellion needs to make something else happen. The Supercharger is definitely going to help them out. The self-destruct is out. Facility, in order to avoid the self-destruct, has to go into the faces of Revival, and I actually think that ends up helping out in the end, because Revival focus all of their attention on taking out the Hanzo. All the while, Montreal Rebellion are pushing in a ton of damage their way, and the same way it happened last time around in overtime, Montreal are able to grab the point when it matters most.
We've just been gifted so many beautiful visuals today, specifically Facility, just dropping down on top of Revival, and hey, the distraction works, and Montreal now primed and ready, got 4 check marks. Mistakes pops that infrasight as well, just in case Revival getting any funny ideas about running a Pharah again on the third point. They're not going to be in for many surprises, though. It's Goats.
Mistakes, though, is going to have to try to rejoin his team. They're just punching with 5 people. He's not doing any damage. Supercharger is there. Jkaru might not be for much longer, but the healing finally does make it over to Lewis Power. Revival losing a couple members now as Mistakes can find Moger. Once he does return to the team, Manage is going to lose that neck. Montreal Rebellion going to continue on here on Dorado. They got to do this in this singular push. There's only 43 seconds left, and Montreal have a good amount of ultimates that are very useful at this point of the game.
Or they have one pointy boy. His name is Facility. Raining down destruction here, and a quick D-Mech as well onto Manitin is going to spell doom for Revival. Montreal only need a couple more centimeters.
Dragon Strike is going to clear the payload, and what looked like a possible Game 5 coming out of Revival ends up being a Montreal Rebellion series win, 3-1. I'm going to say it now, though. I think Revival should be proud of their performance today, even though I believe they've been mathematically eliminated by this point. They will be getting relegated. They did find that improvement that they've been looking for all season. They were able to get that teamwork going. Unfortunately, on the other side, Montreal had a distinct game plan, and they executed.
Yeah, a distinct game plan and some very distinguished DPS as well. Facility amazing on not only the Pharah, but the Hanzo as well. The threat alongside his partner Mistakes right there. And unfortunately, Revival just couldn't quite come up with the same kind of production from their own DPS. But like you said, Boop, market improvement. I think they should be super proud. Like halt combos are so hard to do and so underutilized in general, especially for this Revival squad, and in particular for Boger, who has, been drifting around, and now he's found a home here with the Revival team, and hopefully we can see him continue on and continue to develop that synergy, because seeing your main tank just having a ball always feels really good.
As a ball. Ha ha ha. Well, that's going to be it for the games today, as Montreal does take down their opponent 3-1. Revival, unfortunately, going to stay unrezzed on the ground. They do end up most likely becoming relegated. I'm sure we're going to throw up the standings here in just a second. But the interesting thing about these games today is there is not a lot of goats, not a lot of diva. We saw it a couple times, but in reality, we're already seeing the change happen. And when we enter playoffs with that 2-2-2, I'm really excited for what we're going to see. Team Envy locked up that first seed no matter what, plus 22 map differential. Unfortunately,
could be 23.
Unfortunately, the golden season is no more for Team Envy, followed by XL2 Academy, who could lose next week. I believe Montreal still mathematically could maybe grab that second seed, but XL2 Academy will most likely be your second seed in this group. That's followed by Montreal Rebellion and our Trials team, Triumph.
Yeah, Triumph definitely hanging with the best, very best of them here in North America West. In fifth place, we've got the Second Wind squad at 3-3, followed by Tea Party. And then in the bottom two, we have Revival and Wave Check 0-6. That's a really unlucky feeling. In the coming weeks, though, we're probably not going to see a ton more shift, but what's important to keep your eye on is who ends up in that fourth seed slot, because that's kind of the electric chair, right? You're in the dunk tank. That means that you're going to have to go up against the first seed, Team Envy, to start things off. And that is something that all of these teams are going to be looking to avoid.
What Triumph has is that map win-loss differential. They will have that against Second Wind and potentially Tea Party if Second Wind and Triumph both lose next week. So anything from honestly 2 through 6 could change. It's going to require some help all around from these teams. Number 1 and number 2 most likely locked up, though.
Yeah, most likely Team Envy. Man, were the worlds crumbling down when Team Envy dropped that control? I don't know. But XL2 Academy really coming into their own. We've seen a lot of really good improvements just overall.
They've gotten better
season.
every single game they've played.
Exactly.
That's exactly what you want to see for a team like